Hey guys, so for chapter 12, I've seen that there are some questions of statements in the quiz and also the exams like exam 4, and I'm pretty sure that the final exam too. And to be honest, these questions can be a little bit tricky. So I want to explain some of the statements and whether they're true or false and why. So the first one says that the present value of a cash flow will never be greater than the future dollar amount of the cash flow. This one, it took me a while to understand, but it is true because it says, well, the cash flow will never be greater than the future dollar amount. It doesn't say future value, it says dollar amount. And something that I forgot to mention is that these three first statements, instead of like memorizing it, you can simply check if they're true or false using any net present value table. So for example, I have this one right here from a homework, and you can just create a table like this one for the exam, since you can't open one that is already made. And so like basically what it's saying is that these future amounts will never be, well, this present value will never be greater than the future amounts. And that is true. If we do a present value formula and then we do any rate, it doesn't matter, any year, let's say 1, and the future value like 120, then 104,000 is less than 120,000, so that is true. The second one says the higher the discount rate, the higher the present value of a given future cash flow. This one is false because actually the higher the discount rate, the lower the present value of a future cash flow. And you can do the same thing if, for example, this one, the present value of 120,000 for 1 year and 15% is 104,000. If we put a higher rate, like 20%, it got lower, 25%, even lower. So that's what I'm saying. Like you can just simply use any Excel with the table to see if a statement is right or wrong. The third one is the present value of a cash flow increases as it moves further into the future. So this one, it actually decreases because if we say, let's put it back to 15%, that 120,000, but instead of in year 1, in year 2, it got lower. Year 3, even lower again. So the more, and it goes along with the first one, like the more future the dollar is, the lower the present value is going to be. Okay, the third one says the the required rate of return is the maximum rate of return that an investment project must yield to the acceptable. The key word here is maximum because it's actually minimum. So the required rate of return, what it's saying is that like they're at least expecting that for a project so they can accept to do the investment or not. And then the fifth one, the cost of capital is the average rate of return that the company earns on its investments. The keyword right here is earned. It actually pays. So cost of capital is what the company pays on its investment. So you guys can like remember and memorize these three statements, the last three. The last one is the net present value method assumes that cash flows from a project are immediately reinvested at a rate of return equal to the internal rate of return. I remember that when I took the class, I read this phrase many times in the textbook in McGraw-Hill, and I thought it was true, but it's false because it's not the internal rate of return. It's actually the discount rate. If it's a discount rate, it would be true. So yeah, those are the statements that I've seen during this chapter 12, and I hope it makes sense.